Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Vrinda Devi, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Vrinda. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Okay. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Stotara Pravakacharya's Divine Grace, Abhay Charanandavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sekaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Sri Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Sri Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Sri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Sri Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're completing the 47th chapter of the 10th canto, the Song of the Bee, and this is text 69. Krishnaya pranipatyaha bhaktyudrekam rajaukasham vasudevaya ramaya Rajne kopayanayadat Krishnaya pranipatyaha Bhaktyudrekam vajaukasam 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 Vasudevaya ramaya Rajne Kopayanaya Dat. Krishnaya Pranipatyaha Bhaktiyudrekam Rajaukasam Vasudevaya Ramaya Rajne Kopaya Danyadat. Krishnaya, to Lord Krishna, Pranipatya, after falling down to pay homage. Aha, he told, bhakti, of pure devotion. Udrekam, the abundance. Braja okasam, of the residence of Braja. Vasudevaya, to Vasudev. Ramaya, to Lord Balaram. Rajne, to the king Ugrasena. Cha, and Upayanani, the items received in tribute. Adat, he gave. Translation. After falling down to pay his homage, Uddhava described to Lord Krishna the immense devotion of the residents of Braja. Uddhava also described it to Vasudeva, Lord Balaram, and King Ugrasena, and presented to them the gifts of tribute he had brought with him. Please repeat, after falling down to pay his homage. Uddhava described to Lord Krishna the immense devotion of the residents of Braja. Uddhava also described it to Vasudeva, Lord Balaram, and King Ugrasena, and presented to them the gifts of tribute he had brought with him. Om Jnana Tinamandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Minitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Vishesha Sunyavari Paschatade Shatarine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Vir Krishna Das Goswami Niti Namine. Namo Hamsa Nikashaya Prabhupada Priyate Sudrida Sudi Nistyam Bhanta Shavaki Nivadine. So the servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, didn't comment on this translation. However, we have the tikas of the acharyas that kind of unfold or open up a little bit the final piece of this whole pastime. We've been reading for several weeks. Yeah, a while, about the Song of the Bee and Uddhava's journey to Vrindavan at Krishna's behest. He sent him there because, as we know, Uddhava was expert at placating and, making everything copacetic with everybody. He was very expert at, strategic kind of speak, and he was a nice emissary because he looked like Krishna. So Krishna sent him to placate the residents because, of course, Krishna knew, because he's omniscient, he knows everything. He knew that the residents of Braja were extremely bereft and morose and almost ready to give up their lives because they missed Krishna so much, their beloved boy, their all of the things, their best friend, their baby, their lover, all the things. So when Uddhava went, and we've read that he was quite astonished at the level of love that the Brajbasis had. Of course, Uddhava, being a very close associate of Krishna's and having so many similar attributes, it only stands to reason, and we have read that he was also a great lover of Krishna. That was one of his best friends, and they spent a lot of time, and so he was also completely. But it's hard to, when you're considering your own feelings and your own, you can't really get outside of that to quite understand what others are feeling or thinking. I mean, we all experience that in everyday life. We have our sort of conception in our mind of a certain thing or a perspective of how something looks, and then it affects us in some way. But to really understand how that affects others is difficult, because we don't, we're only in our own minds. We don't know the minds of others. So Uddhava actually was very, very moved, and it's stated here, he described the immense devotion, because he was so, right before he left and he was saying goodbye, everybody was giving gifts to give to Krishna, and they were expressing themselves and just revealing their hearts, and Uddhava was overwhelmed with so much of an outpouring of devotion. So the first is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who comments, Uddhava described how the inhabitants of Braja had greater devotion than the residents of Mathura, Brajal Kasham Bhaktiyudrekam. O Lord Krishna, you are controlled by devotion, you are attained by devotion, you are seen by devotion. This is the meaning of all personally displaying his transcendental pastimes there. So he was becoming, or maybe it crystallized how high this prema was. He became acutely aware. He could see it, he could feel it, and he understood. This is the meaning of all the scriptures. I have seen among the inhabitants of Braja the most intense devotion of all your devotees. This can be understood from the statement, the intensity of separation from you had turned all of the inhabitants of Gokula white. When Narada saw the place, he thought he was in Svetadvipa. Your father, Nanda Maharaj, was so much attracted to you that in confusion he prayed that their minds should concentrate on you. You can understand from this his overwhelming attraction. Your mother Yashoda was so choked up that she could not say anything. He was describing the sentiments and the mood of everyone there. Hearing this, Krishna, losing control of his senses and mind, began to cry loudly in the midst of the assembly. So he was wailing because he heard about, Nanda, who obviously was the model of composure. Nanda was the one that, even though demons were coming, and there was so many accounts of Krishna killing demons, or, the cowherd boys were telling these sort of awe-inspiring tales about demons. Nanda was the one that said, okay, very calm, cool, and collected, okay, let's just pick up our things and move elsewhere, and then we can be out of harm's way. He was the, typically the patriarch is the rock and the pillar, and, everybody looks up to him for guidance. But he was overwhelmed with, grief and love and all the things that, he couldn't have his beloved boy, his darling boy there as well. So he was, overwrought, emotionally overwrought. And, Yashoda was so choked up that she could not say anything. I'm sure she was just crying and crying and crying and crying, Those of us who are mothers and have boys know that, there's always that level of sort of angst and worry and, wanting to understand if the boy's doing okay, if they're eating, if they're safe, if they're, all the things. And Yashoda, I'm sure, was in the greatest anxiety that anyone could ever imagine because of being Krishna's mother. Although it's not, unpacked so much in the thing they're talking, the Bhagavatam speaks a lot about the gopis and about Srimati Radharani's separation. However, I'm quite sure Mother Yashoda was just beside herself with so much worry. So, hearing this, Krishna, losing control of his senses and mind, began to cry loudly in the midst of the assembly. And in the evening, in a solitary place, Uddhava revealed to Krishna the huge fire of prema of his beloved gopis. He briefly revealed the Chitra Jalpa, that's like speaking about various topics, not really making so much, not focused. And Divyanmata, which I somehow, the last time I gave class, we discussed that in length, the Divyanmata, the madness of Radharani, the, sort of incoherent, she was just couldn't be reasoned with practically. She couldn't be, placated. She was just speaking to the bee practically in like as if she was and she was foaming at the mouth. She was mad. The Divyanmata of Radha, the crown jewel of his dear gopis. Understanding that, Krishna spent the whole night burning with fever. Krishna took on that feeling, elsewhere in this chapter, it was stated that they were all kind of burning. They had this burning, like they were with fever the whole time that he was away. All of the restless symptoms, all of the half crazed, all of the distraught, emotionally overwrought, all the things. They were all suffering from this, particularly the gopis who had the highest love, the very highest sentiment for Krishna. That they would just do absolutely, obviously, anything for Krishna, and unfortunately they were stuck in place. They couldn't do anything for Krishna there. They were burning up, not offering service to Krishna as they had done for so long. And that's really difficult in that, extreme separation. You can't even offer service. All you can do is think. All you can do is remember and talk about. You can't, your hands feel like they're tied. It's very, very frustrating when you can't serve as you would like. It's because as the servants of Krishna, the foremost, and the lovers of Krishna, that separation, that extreme, intense vipralamba, was burning them up. It was burning them up from the inside out. And if you have, Krishna's form and all of his attributes, at your sort of disposal, because he's there all the time, and then all of a sudden that's taken away, it must be extremely, I can only imagine, it must be extremely difficult to reckon with that or even want to live, right? What would make life worth living if you didn't have that sort of connection with your beloved at all times? It's very difficult. And that's from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Jiva Goswami states, first, Uddhava offered respects to Krishna, who had stayed in his palace for that time. Of course, Krishna was waiting to hear some report because he knew the extreme separation that they were feeling, and probably, on some level, with that becomes, madness, imminent death, all these sort of vyabhichari bhavas that we had read about prior. And I brought the Ujjvala Nilamani again because I can read through them a little, because there's a lot of information about what those entail. And not eating, sort of that Divyanmata, that madness, talking about, nonsense, not really being reasonable, all those things is what the gopis were experiencing, and all the residents of Vrindavan. The Sakas too, although they're not, so much discussed, their sentiments so much, they're not talked about here, but anyone who had any contact with Krishna and had that withdrawn, that was a very difficult time. So he was waiting in his palace for Uddhava to come back at some point, and he took his time because he was there for, I believe, 6 months or so. And, sorry, I lost my place here. This book on the phone it's a little difficult to navigate because you can just sort of turn pages, right? Okay, yeah. First, he offers respects to Krishna, who has stayed in his palace for that time. After the preliminaries, like being embraced by Krishna, who asked about his health, taking support of Krishna's questions in order, he spoke about the intense prema, bhaktyudrekam, of his father Nanda and others, consisting of their words and actions, everything that was suitable to the occasion. By directly meeting with you in your sporti, they had become happy, and their lamentation had been extinguished, and not by my skill or by your message. That was the content of his report. Later, on another occasion, he spoke to Vasudeva and others as much as was suitable about the intense prema of the people of Braja in the same order as he spoke to Krishna. After that, when the opportunity arose, he gave Krishna and the others gifts. Uddhava giving Krishna's message, Balaram's arrival in Braja, and finally Krishna's killing of Dantavakra should be understood in detail through the commentary. There it is stated that Krishna returned to Braja because the people of Braja, taking him as their life, desired that he return. Later, disappearing with the people of Braja, he then engaged blissfully in internal pastimes with full satisfaction for increasing the bliss. So we can understand from Jiva Goswami's purport, kind of more of a little bit of a top-down view, that, Krishna, this whole pastime was Krishna. He really was churning that deep, deep feeling of separation, which it's stated in many places that we study, many of the scriptures, that's the highest. The serving in vipralambha, serving in separation, that's the highest, because when you're with someone, you're not really, you're thinking of them because you're with them, but you're sort of more like thinking, ooh, we're going to have to part soon, and that's going to be really, really difficult. And then there's the parting, and then that's when the difficulty arises, because that separation is, it's all-consuming. When you're not able to be with your beloved, it's very, it's bewildering, actually. You're not able to sort of conceive. You become so distraught, you can't wait for that second to be with them again, and you're not able to conceive of how that will be. So that's a whole other, from the mind's point of view, that's a whole other, I don't want to say a fantasy, but, you can actually, imagine that meeting again. And this was something that Krishna, this was a pastime that Krishna actually gave to his devotees, so that would increase their love for him so much. Because when you meet that person, when you meet that beloved, you're back in their association, you're much, much more appreciative of having that person with you. You're much more appreciative. You're so grateful, and the service increases because you don't want to leave them again. You don't want them to leave again. And so then when he disappeared with the people of Braja, then, he was able to engage unlimitedly and until both parties' full satisfaction, which is, that's the whole mood of Braja, is those pastimes that just keep increasing and increasing and increasing in bliss. And finally, Sanatana Goswami. Uddhava fell down on the ground offering respects because he had bhakti by his nature and had returned after a long time, and in order to reveal a special message. Uddhava was feeling separation too. Uddhava went there presumably to placate or speak to everybody, so everybody was sort of a little bit settled. They weren't, killing themselves, not intentionally, but they weren't withering away. They were all white. Like every Narada thought he was in Sweta Dweep. Everybody was white. They just lost their composure. They lost their life airs. They were just sort of living on the promise of love. They were emaciated. They were, a shell of their former self, it's said. He spoke about the increase in bhakti due to separation, how because of seeing him, not because of his skill or Krishna's message, they were pleased and gave up their sorrow and lamentation. Because, Krishna had sent his good friend who looked like him, and then he spent some time there. And that was, I'm sure, a little difficult for Uddhava because he was also in feeling separation from Krishna. They were all there together. Why do they not come here? They are people of Vraja Kaushasham. They desire to see you there only, and not in Mathura. Uddhava spoke of their bhakti to Krishna, Vasudeva, and Balaram. But he gave gifts to the king Ugrasena. He did not speak to him about their devotion, since as a king he feared he would be envious. Or Cha means all of them. Paying respects to all, he spoke to all about the devotion in Braja and gave everyone gifts. And, that exchange of gifts or that paying, giving of gifts and homage, those are all tokens of love and gratitude and affection, particularly for Krishna. And, that wasn't really enough to, make Krishna understand that they were burning in this fire of separation. He just understood that they were burning in the fire of separation, and Uddhava going there wasn't really. It didn't do very much, but they were able to at least understand that at some point Krishna would return they would be able to be with him again. And there was a few things in here that I thought were quite interesting with regard to, somehow in this book it speaks a lot, I guess because it's the Song of the Bee. Uddhava tells Krishna, "O Krishna, O killer of Aghasura, the calamity of your absence has withered Vishaka. The beauty of her face has become like an Amboja lotus flower, wilting in extreme cold. Her lips have become like Bandhujiva flowers, colorless in the piercing wind, and her eyes have become like Indavara lotus flowers, scorched by the autumn sun." So just, have you ever seen, when somebody's white as a sheet and even their eyes are just like, they're blank, it's like a blank stare. That's what we can understand from this description. That's how they looked, that they were just completely bereft. Their hearts were, their hearts were broken. Their hearts were broken, and only Krishna would be able to mend that. So now that part has been, that's a big sort of that was a big, I'll say, not a hurdle, but that was a big event that happened with the inhabitants of Braja, that they had to kind of get through was, dying in the fire of separation, and then having Uddhava come and revive them to some extent. But, that's giving them a little bit of hope. And so now, in the next chapter, we'll hear about, and I'm not starting the next chapter, but then the next chapter is entitled, Krishna Pleases His Devotees. So after hearing about all of his friends, his parents, and like that, being extremely sort of emaciated without his presence, then now Krishna, of course, being the hero, will come to the rescue. So we'll hear about that going forward. But this has been quite a churning of emotions, this particular chapter. We've seen it all, and it's entitled "The Song of the Bee" because, everything that came out from Srimati Radharani to the bee was the nutshell of how the whole world felt, the whole of Braja felt when Krishna wasn't with them. So that was actually, this was a churning of so many emotions, and just puts the spotlight on the extreme love and affection that all of the residents of Braja felt, which for us is the perfect model. That's how we all should be feeling when we're not with, in our small world, when we're not with Radha Golokananda, particularly Lord Golokananda. When we're not with him, life tends to be a little bit dry, a little bit, colorless, a little bit, just sort of dead. You're not really, you're not able to, at least I'm not able to sort of keep it together unless, there's some service to the Lord. And that's always should be our mood, that's our connecting thread, is that service to our beloved Lord, and keeping ourselves in that and keeping it together so we can serve him in all circumstances, even if he handles us roughly by his embrace or leaves us brokenhearted by not being present before us. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is our worshipful Lord unconditionally. So does anybody have anything about this chapter or the wrap-up? Yes. Yeah. I know.
So this would seem to indicate that Krishna's aprakrita pastimes are taking place right now in Braj when we go there, except that we cannot perceive them. That's, this particular statement indicates the pastimes. They're invisible to us, but these pastimes are still going on right now. So we should appreciate that when we go to the Holy Dham.
I also thought of something in Jiva Goswami's Tika. It says, by directly meeting with you in your spurti, they had become happy and their lamentation had been extinguished, and not by my skill or your message. So it's actually, it's what happens in the emotional state. Bhakti is not dependent upon a message. I mean, we have lots of messages, and that's good. Lots of things we learn. But in the state of the gopis, it wasn't any message. It was actually seeing him that allowed them to be relieved. It wasn't anything that could be said. Nothing could be said. And also, in regard to how long we've been on this chapter, we started before we left for Spain, which is back in August. So it's been like almost 3 months. So 3.5 months on the most wonderful chapter. Haribo.
Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Song of the Bee ki jai.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Enam Kanvantam Aravindanalayatacham Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Angani Yasa Sakalen Kriya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Namam Sharam Sachet Anandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamam Namam Yasodabeyo Lukalad Davamana Paramishtamrat Yanta Todrucha Gopya Rudantamunitra Yugbamrishandam Karampucha Jugmena Satsankanetram. Moshashakam patre kankakanda Ditagraivam damodaram bhaktivadam. Iti driksvalilabir ananda kune swakosham nimajandam akyapayantam. Tadi sita gesu bhakti tattva punak prematas tam shata vrittivande. Varam deva moksham na mokshavatim nachanyam vrinayam pareshadapiya. Idam teva purnata gopalabham sada me manyasya virastam kimanyai. Hidante mukham bhojam achanta nilai vritam kuntalai snigdha raktaisya gopya. Moschambitam bimba raktadadame manasyavirastam alam lakshalabai. Namo Devadamoda Ananta Vishnu Prasida Prabhu Dukha Jalabdi Magnam. Kripa Drishti Vristati Dinambatantu Grahaneshamamagyam Aid Yakshidrisha. Guveratma Jao Batai Muchaiva Yadvad Twayamochitao Makti Bajao Krito Cha. Data prema bhaktim swa kame prayacha namokshe gurkome sti damodaraya. Namaste stu damne spuradip jidam nehe chwadio torayata vishvachadamne. Namo Radhe Kaya Tva Diya Priyaya Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam. Namam Ishwaram Satchit Ananduru Pahom Latsat Kunalam Gokule Rajamanam. Yasodameo Lukala Davamanagam Param Rishtam Machanta Tonruchakopya. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Raghudev. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Raghudev. Jaya Radha Golokanana Radha Golokanana Raghudev. Jaya Radhe Jaya Raghudev Radhe Raghudev. Nayarat, hey Nayarande, Radhe 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 Jaya Sri Radhe Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anandakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Saima Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Vachuranam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Munamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Om. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Pudale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pachari Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. To the Supreme Controller, who possesses an eternal form of blissful knowledge, was glistening the earring swing to and fro, who manifested himself in Gokula, who stole the butter that the gopis kept hanging from the rafters of their storerooms, and who then quickly jumped up and ran in retreat in fear of Mother Yashoda, but was ultimately caught. To that Supreme Lord Sri Damodar I offer my humble obeisances. Upon seeing his mother's whipping stick, he cried and rubbed his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes were fearful and his breathing quick, and his mother Yashoda bound his belly with ropes. He shivered in fright, and his pearl necklace shook. To the Supreme Lord Sri Damodar, who was bound by his devotees' love, I offer my humble obeisances. Those super excellent pastimes of Lord Krishna's babyhood drown the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy. To the devotees who were attracted only to his majestic aspect in Narayan and Vaikuntha, the Lord herein reveals, I am conquered and overwhelmed by pure loving devotion. To the Supreme Lord Damodar, my obeisances hundreds and hundreds of times. O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for liberation or eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My only prayer is that your childhood pastimes may constantly appear in my mind. O Lord, I do not even want to know your feature Paramatma. I simply wish that your childhood pastimes may ever be enacted in my heart. O Lord, the cheeks of your blackish lotus face, which is encircled by locks of curling hair, have become reddened like bimba fruit due to Mother Yashoda's kisses. What more can I describe than this? Millions of opulences are of no use to me, but may this vision constantly remain in my mind. O unlimited Vishnu, O Master, O Lord, please me. I'm drowning in an ocean of sorrow, and I'm almost like a dead man. Please shower the rain of mercy upon me. Uplift me and protect me with your nectarian vision. O Lord Damodar, in your form as a baby, Mother Yashoda bound you to a grinding stone with a rope for tying cows. You then freed the sons of Kuvera, Manigriva, and Alakuvara, who were cursed to stand as trees, and you gave them the chance to become your devotees. Please bless me in the same way. I have no desire for liberation into your effulgence. O Lord, the entire universe was created by Lord Brahma, who was born from your abdomen, which was bound with a rope by Mother Yashoda. To this rope I offer my humble obeisances. I offer my obeisances to your most beloved Srimati Radharani and to your unlimited pastime.